Hey there, folks. Little pre-show intro for you guys. The first thing I want to say is a huge sorry for missing last week. I don't know. I was in a funk. It happens from time to time. I got into a funk. I think it's because I knew that this episode had a few edit points that I had to do, and sounded like a daunting task. And I finally sat down and did it, and guess what? It wasn't that bad. I don't think you're going to notice it all that often, though I do want to apologize to our guest this week, C-Robb. I am sorry that your experience on the show was very technically difficult to do. We had a lot of issues, but we pulled through. This is a great episode, guys. I really enjoyed it. And a big apology because we did do this a couple months ago, probably in 2015. I think it was still, it was November, I think. So, some of the things we're going to talk about is a little outdated, but the core of this episode is still about wrestling and coming up in the industry. So you can never outdate that. I do want to give a little shout out to one of C-Robb's projects that's coming up in a couple months here, in about 3 months. And we'll remind you as we get closer again. But he is going to be, every year he coaches a very special event for softball. It is the Carole Yeager-Ellis 8U Coach Pitch Softball Tournament, July 9th to the 14th, 2016. If you're in the Levittown, Fairless Hills, Bucks County area, Pennsylvania, it's, I believe, the Fairless Hills Fields, and go support. It's a very cool thing he does. And I can't recommend it enough. On to the show. Enough waiting. Let's talk to C-Robb. Brother C-Robb.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to Everything is Awesome. I'm your host, Kev, and this is the show where we talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week's guest is an old friend of mine, both literally and metaphorically. He is, back in the day when we hung out quite often, he actually was one of my closest friends who we've had plenty of heart-to-hearts, and I'm honored to call him a friend. I'm honored to call him a guy who taught me a thing or two in the ring, wrestling. Please welcome from the 100 Acre Woods, C-Robb Christopher Robbins.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, it's been quite some time since we've talked. I hunted you down on social media, and somehow I found your email address on something. Because you are one of the guys, like you and Wasi are probably the only two guys from the wrestling world that will eventually do this show. And that's obvious. This show originated as like a podcast about podcasts, and then I realized my audience was small, so or my interviewers were small. So open it up to everybody. And you were like one of the you're the sixth guest, maybe fifth guest. I don't even know, but thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me.
So what we like to do here on the show, as I kind of told you before we officially went live, is we kind of just talk about how you got into, in your case, wrestling, and you start from the beginning. We'll probably go on tangents. That's fine. And whatever you want to talk about, it's think of it as your show this week. Just no C-Robb the D-Robb, man.
No problem. I'll stay away from
there's
that.
also a podcasting history that we have with Happy Hour and all the various shows that anyone that listens to this probably has an idea of. But so wrestling is our common thread, I'd say.
Yeah, that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah, it was, obviously I started in the backyard. And with FTW way back in the day with the Underground Wrestling Federation, the other UWF, which had, because the UWF for me is something that's been around since I was a kid, like a teenager at the very least.
Yeah,
so
it's been around since the early 90s. Long before I even thought that having an opportunity in wrestling was a possibility.
And I remember going and just watching. George the Animal Steel was like the biggest name I think that I remember seeing there. Though there could have been, I don't think I went to every single one, but I did. And that's when they were at Westerby Hall, I believe, back in the 90s. And that was like the thing that like at least me, I know Fox, another wrestling buddy of ours, like we had, like we wanted to wrestle there one day. And I don't think we actually, or at least I never did. I think it was the Eagles Hall I ended up at with the UWF. But yeah, so the UWF has early history here in our neck of the woods, and you started there. I don't know when. We'll go
1998.
Wow.
Yeah, I first started there because I knew Moose Moretti. He was just a customer of mine coming into the gas station, and we always talked about wrestling. Once I found out that he was a wrestler, and as soon as him and his partner, Rocco Murder, Fred, as soon as they opened up their school, he invited me to come in for a tryout. And I thought, this is awesome. And so I went and I did my tryout, and he's like, oh, this is something that you could do if you wanted to. I said, all right. And he gave me a reasonable price on tuition, which, you know, after a couple months, he just kind of forgot or decided he wasn't going to charge me anymore. But so that was that, and I went in, and actually the funny thing is, at the time, and not a lot of people know this, I had already signed a contract to join the Army as soon as I graduated from high school, and which was something that I didn't want to do to begin with. Not that, you know, it's not a great thing.
I want to say everyone out of high school has that idea. I mean, I never signed the dotted line, but I talked to a couple people about it. And
yeah, I went through. I had the physical, the whole nine, which is a very funny story in itself.
How hard is it to get out of that? I know on TV they make it seem like it's impossible.
It is impossible unless you are under the age of 18 when you sign the contract and you don't have a parent there with you, which is the only reason why I was able to get out of it. But once I got accepted into the Squared Circle Pro Wrestling School.
Is that what they called it?
Yeah, that's what they called it. Which it was just a little garage where if you went over the top rope or ran the ropes too hard on one side, you were slamming into drywall, which was fun. And the ring, there was no padding to the ring. It was old carpet and old padding, which most of it smelled like urine. So
nice.
Yeah, it was.
Is that
it was
the ring?
Great.
Is that the ring we wrestled in the 2000s?
No, that wasn't. But I tell you what, it was. I mean, I say no padding. It wasn't your traditional ring padding, but it was the most comfortable ring I think I've ever bumped on. And because it was a training ring, so it was real close to the ground, it sounded like $1,000,000 every bump you took. So, but it was also, I think it was 20 by 20.
That's huge.
It might have even been a little bit bigger than that. You had a ton of room.
Which standard is in WWE? What, 8? Is it they use 20s or 18s?
18.
And then usually indies use 16s, right?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big ring. And so for those that are not in the know of wrestling, to me, padding is one of the most important things. And maybe that's just my old man mind thinking back to everything that hurts. But that was, I remember, like, were you there in the FTW when we built the ring?
No.
Okay.
I didn't come until you guys already had the ring.
Okay, so we'll get to that chronologically then. But so continue.
So I going back to the whole military thing, and this is just something that I think is funny, is at that point in my life, you know, I was just became a senior in high school. I'd never given blood or had blood taken at all in my life. And so I was nervous as hell about that. And that's one of the things that they do when they give you your physical. And the biggest, most buff black dude I've ever seen, I was scared just sitting next to him, is in front of me. in line, and they line you up in a row, and there's just this old lady that sits there and sticks you with a needle, draws your blood, and then as you're done, you get up, and then the next person comes in. She doesn't even move from her seat. Somebody even comes and takes the vials of blood from her. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting, and I'm nervous as hell. And the biggest dude I've ever seen in my life, he gets the needle in, and she's holding on to it, and she takes the one vial out. She goes to switch the vials, and as she's doing that, he passes out and falls over, and she's got a firm grip on the needle, and it just rips a huge gash in his bicep. So now I'm even more nervous, but it ended up, going good and not a big deal. But
I mean, at 31, when I have to give blood, I'm just like, go into my happy place. Like I can't, as much as I love getting tattoos, and I don't mind needles for that, giving blood or any kind of hospital work.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to bother me, but
I'm 31, and I will admit that I am a P word when it comes to that.
But it used to bother me a lot
until my youngest was born. Once my youngest was born, blood, none of that stuff bothers me at all anymore.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, blood in general doesn't bother me. It's blood when it's the needle. The needle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't mind really looking at the blood. I just kind of avoid it because then I see the needle. And same thing with IVs, which I've only had 2 or 3 of in my life. I don't like needles in my arm. Anyway,
so
hit me with a steel chair though, and I'm fine.
Yeah, right. So I started off at his wrestling school, and I did it for. I started in February of '98, and May, I want to say 15th. It was the day of my senior prom. 2 weeks before, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna throw a show together at the wrestling school. So you're gonna have your first match." And I'm like, "Huh." That's the day of my senior prom. And he's like, "Well, we're gonna do it early in the day. So prom's at 6 o'clock. So you'll be fine." So I'm like, all right. So I went. I wrestled 2 matches. I refereed a match between Reckless Youth, Trent Acid, and Billy Real. And then I went home and showered and shaved and picked my date up and got ready for prom. And then after a while, it just, between work and everything, I couldn't continue to go to the school, so I took, I'm going to say, probably about 6 months off. Just stopped going, and then I went back, and it was nothing had really changed. Got right back into the swing of things, and then they had a show coming up. Actually, it wasn't even UWF. It was... Oh, God, I don't remember what Tony Stallone used to call his wrestling company, but it was a show for Tony, and Moose had asked me if I wanted to do it. Who wouldn't, It was the first opportunity to wrestle in front of a large crowd, because we could only fit maybe 15, 20 people tops in the old wrestling school. So I did the show for Tony, and I realized then, I'm out of my league. I need to expand my horizons as far as training. So me and 2 other guys, we decided, we're gonna start going up to New Jersey All Pro, and see if we can get some more training up there. And so we would get in the car, and I'd drive us up there.
Where in Jersey? How far of a drive is this?
Oh, your exit, I believe it was 14 on the New Jersey Turnpike. So yeah, you're up pretty far, and it was in this old bingo hall, and we get there, and right away they're like, "Who are you guys?" And it was Magic and Fat Frank, who unfortunately just recently passed away. And so we actually would have to sit there and watch them the first couple times we went down there. We had to sit and watch all of the rookies that they were training, learn, and then at the end of the night, that's when they let all the people who had experience work out. So we went and did that, and it was nice. It was a decent change for us to go and work out there. We got to meet the Haas brothers while we were there, because that's where they cut their teeth in wrestling, and so we got to work out with them. And after a while from going there, just once a week, we'd make the long trek up. Magic started actually having us run the drills in the class, and their beginners classes, which was cool because we got more ring time that way. He taught us a ton of psychology, and he seemed to really take a liking to me, Dewey, and Malcolm, and which was great. The fact that we got to learn something other than what we were being taught at the Squared Circle. So at that point in my life, I was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was training at training three nights a week, and then training Saturday. God, I would show up at the gym at 10 in the morning, and I would work out until 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
And you were squeezing this all in with a regular life, I assume, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With working a full-time job and a part-time job.
Yeah. So you went to the school of wrestling for real. Like, you didn't go to regular school like most of us.
Yeah. No.
And I apologize for making you talk that whole time.
Oh, that's cool. As long as you can work out the technical difficulties, we're all right.
And I got to, so jumping back, because I couldn't say anything while you're talking, the one name that stuck out to me was Reckless Youth. So you've known him all these years. I mean, I guess "no" is a strong term.
I was familiar with him up until we did that show, that second show that we did at Commonwealth Egan.
Okay.
The one that we only got to do half a show, and then it got shut down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was familiar with him. I didn't know Montoya until then, but
and the reason Reckless Youth, at least him, has some sort of quote unquote importance is he's the guy that trained a lot of the FTW guys. Which is where our stories intersect. Is I think we may have been Falls Township Wrestling at the time, or were we still Federation of Teenage Wrestlers? If it wasn't,
it was Falls Township.
So prior, was that in Crabtree, Tony's backyard, or was it?
Well, when I first started with you guys was the week after you made your debut, which is like
November 19th.
2001.
2002, I think, because I didn't turn 18 until 2002.
Really? I thought it was 2001.
That's when I debuted. Fox and Jay, I believe, debuted in 01.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because they were 18. Well, Fox was always older than Jay and I, but Jay, I think, turned 18 the year that we entered senior year. So I think in 01, he probably wrestled there.
Okay.
And that's where I had to be in the audience because I wasn't a wrestler at that. Well, I wasn't a UWF wrestler at the point, and so that's where I first met you. Well, saw you wrestle. I didn't meet you until you officially came over, which I guess was the week after that.
It was the following weekend, because how that came about was Moose had said to me, he said, "Look," he said, "we have an opportunity to save ourselves a ton of money by not having to pay for a ring. The only catch is we have to put some of their guys on the show." And he said, "We've had some of the guys on the show, and the other guys were pissed because it was just high spot after high spot after high spot, and we just got to teach them proper, psychology, how to put a match together. He's like, they're not much younger than you. Why don't you go work out with them? And I'm like, I don't have a place to train. Going to work out with them sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. And plus, I, talked to quite a few of you. Actually, me and Steve were sent to Staples to get tables before the show, and Steve offered to go with me, and so him and I we had talked, and I thought it'll be a good fit, and so that's how that went down. And after that, we just kind of all clicked,
You can take it quickly. I don't know which one. You need these? There's obviously a lot of editing.
That's all right. That's all right.
Please, that's the least of our technical difficulties.
Yeah.
There's normally a 4-year-old, 3-year-old child sitting in here when I do this live show. So yes, the Staples tables were like a classic for us once we kind of did the pro shows. UWF, FTW, all alike. For me, I always look fine. I think I only used trays. I think I only wrestled for the UWF once, but I used to do the Arby's trays, which shattered so nice. And in the backyard, it was like a nice, cool effect. I enjoyed it in the ring too when we wrestled like at Carole Yeager-Ellis and Emily Methodist.
If only that table when you and D'Angelo had your blow off. If only the table broke as good as those Arby trays.
It's funny because he begs me to find that match because I have it on DVD somewhere and to give it to him because that is probably his best match. And yeah, I remember that. That's also the night that I grabbed a chair because I don't know if it was after the table. It had to be before the table, but I grabbed a chair, which was impromptu because whatever weapon I was looking for was not on the side of the ring. So he saw that I grabbed the chair and I just swung, expecting him to throw his hands up. Because that's what D'Angelo did. Like he trained to protect himself.
Yeah.
The actor that he wanted to be. So I swung full force, but he did not put his hands up and took it like a champ. And I remember just seeing the white of his eyes. That's to this day one of my favorite matches. But yes, the trays, the tables. What else did we? I guess just the standard ladders and stuff. I don't know if we ever did ladders in the pro FTW matches, but
I know Moose him and I used to always go to Sears Hardware when it was in Dion Square to get those aluminum trash cans that if you farted too close to one, it would bend because they make a hell of a sound, but they were junk. But it looked good, and he was always big on that. And plus, you could fill it up with a ton of weapons, and you got a convenient way to carry them all to the ring.
I always enjoyed Roadblock. That was something. Do you remember the Roadblock that we used? That's something that I think was Marty's thing. Not your Marty. Rambo. Maniac is his wrestling name. And in every hardcore match we had, and I remember I told him in our one hardcore match, I'm going to be leaning on this side. Like, I'm going to lean my right side away, so hit the left side so that with a bat. So he, of course, hit the right side. That was Marty. He was like the guy that's just a lovable, stiff guy.
Yeah.
First time now we trained, going back when we were Federation of Teenage Wrestlers, we quote-unquote had tryouts with guys. And Marty was one of those guys where we basically, and this was when we wrestled on the ground, we would just say, like, all right, let's do a few moves. All right, powerbomb me. Like, remember, it's fake. Like, you don't have to slam me into the ground. He proceeded to pick me up and slam me in the ground. And I think there's video of it that maybe Tom, I don't know. It's probably lost at this point. But I literally folded in half and dented the ground in. And that was the last time in the backyard I ever took a powerbomb from him. I let him do it in the ring once.
I remember it was one of the last FTW shows. It was I think it was the last one that we did at the Eagles Club. I was supposed to sneak into his match, which I think was against Wellbank. As he's setting up for the spear, I was supposed to slide a chair into the ring so that when he would go to run, I could pull his feet out from under him and he would face bump onto the chair. And then I was supposed to hit him with the chair. And as we're getting ready for it, I said to him, I'm like, dude, how hard do you want me to hit you? He says, give me everything you got with a steel chair. And I'm like, dude, if I give you everything I got with a steel chair, it's gonna mess you up. And he, oh, no, I'll be fine. And I'm like, Marty, I'm not going to give you everything I got with the steel chair. And he's like, I'll be fine. Just give me everything you got. So I'm like, dude, walk with me. So I grab a steel chair, one of those crappy ones that sat under the ring forever. And I go out to the dumpster behind Eagles Club. And I'm like, dude, if I hit you with everything I got with the steel chair, this is what it's going to be like. And the dent I left just from hitting the dumpster, the chair was unusable. In fact, I threw it in the dumpster right afterwards. And he's like, yeah, no, I'll be fine. I'm like, all right, if he says he'll be fine, I guess he'll be fine. So we go out, we do the spot, and I hit him so hard that to this day, Tom still breaks my balls about it because it literally drove Marty to his knees. But he got back up and he still finished the spot. We were trying to do like the Jeff Hardy, Brock Lesnar spot where I hit him with the chair. He dropped down to one knee. I hit him with the chair again as he stood back up, which is a lot different because Lesnar stood right back up. Marty kind of hobbled up after like 40 seconds. And then I hit him again. But he rolled right between the middle and top rope out onto the floor, landed on his feet, which is a feat for somebody who's as
he was not he wasn't Jeff Hardy's size.
Yeah, no, and he wasn't very
Mick
nimble.
Foley-ish? No, and I don't mean that as offensive, but Mick Foley-ish. I was Mick Foley-ish at some point too.
But yeah, he finished the spot like a champ, and I didn't feel bad about it at first, and then everybody started giving me shit about it, and then when the DVD came out, I was like, oh, yeah, now I see why everybody's giving me shit. But with the backstory, I was just doing what the kid asked me to do,
He was always fine with doing whatever you wanted to do, or whatever he wanted to do.
And those chairs we had, they were not very good at all. Like, I don't know if you remember, we did... and this was when we were still in Tony's backyard in Crabtree. A spot. It was when Jay and Rich finally turned on Ryan when Ryan was the world champ, and they not beat his ass, and they're beating him down, and he's laying on the ground. And I actually, so stupid, in hindsight. This is the most ridiculous thing I ever could have done because it's not like we ever had anybody watching us in the backyards unless it was when Worlds Collide.
Yeah.
But so I bladed. I cut myself before I even went out. And I go running out to the ring to make the save because Ryan's laying on the ground and Jay's hitting him with the chair over and over again. And as he is, because it's a chair that's been sitting under the ring forever, it's rusted. And as soon as I go out, I slide into the ring, and as soon as I stand up, Jay hits me in the head with it. And as he does, the top part, like the backing, flies off. And on video, it looked phenomenal. It looked like, oh my God, he hit him so hard. The chair just imploded as he hit him. It was great. But and I bled like a pig, and I'll never forget Tina coming out, going, "Oh my God, you're bleeding." I'm like, yeah, I know, I did it on purpose.
I remember when I think this is when we wrestled in Lico's uncle's facility. It wasn't really maybe it was a backyard, I don't know. But
it was just yard wrestling then.
Was it? It might not have been even there. It may have been at Dave's. But remember that wooden mallet? D'Angelo's huge wooden. That
was before my time.
Oh, okay. If it was at Dave, but I remember Jay hit it and like it left an indent on his head. And then there was another thing where like a lead pipe was involved, and I think it was with Jay and maybe even Rich. I'm not sure, but it was hit on somebody, bounced back, and did the same thing. And then my other favorite Jay moment was when we did that outdoor show at, was it Emily Methodist or was it? It wasn't Eagles Hall. I forget where it was.
It was the Legion.
The Legion. Okay, we did an outdoor wrestling show. Beautiful day. However, Jay decided to juice, and he told me ahead of time because he said don't tell the girls, his now wife, and he said, but just when it happens, you know that it's I did it on purpose, and he juiced, he bladed, and like somehow I got shit for it because I knew about it and didn't tell anyone. But they are some of my favorite Jay moments of what happens outside the ring.
The funniest part about that was we get him to the back, and which wasn't even the back; it was just behind the rental truck that brought the ring to the event. But we get him back there, and we're starting to clean him up. And I just remember Montoya going, "Why the fuck did you cut yourself that big?" And he goes, "I didn't think it cut. It wasn't bleeding at first." So he just kept going, and he went pretty much across. He basically scalped himself. Oh, so fun.
Yeah, I forgot that it was because, most of the time it's just a quick, less than an inch mark that you usually do. I mean, I've never juiced, so I'm speaking out of turn here. But I would imagine usually it's just you do a quick little slice because your head's going to bleed. Yeah, the idiots we were, and like, I mean, we were the safest idiots I've ever known because there's like backyard kids that are just dumb. And like going back to the backyard where we, in Dave's house, would light tables on fire. Though I think that was like, I think we got it lit on fire and Dave said, nope, stop the match. Like, we're not doing this. We also, have you ever been in Dave's backyard or no? I know.
No.
Okay. So he has a shed there that was, I believe, a triple threat match between D'Angelo, Moore, and Steve. And because we were at the same time being dumb, we were also being safe, tossing, I believe it was Steve, off the top of the shed, which was like, probably about as tall as my shed, maybe a little taller, and I think the roof was flatter. So it's not like 10 feet in the air, but 8. And it was like tossing Steve off, but holding his hand and letting him down so he didn't get hurt. There's so many things that happen in the backyard that I love. Some of these are before your time, but the one I just went to, those apartments across the street from Burger King, Newportville. Yeah. So that's where the FTW started. Chris Nielsen, you know him?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Streak.
Chris Nielsen. That was where he lived, and we wrestled there. In a time where, now here's the evolution of the FTW from backyard to pro, was where we had no ropes, but we would bounce off shit like just invisible ropes. But the first ever event ended with a gauntlet match that Nielsen was supposed to win. I guess because he offered up a place for us to wrestle, we put the strap on him, but what we did is everyone went out there with something to hit him with for real. Like, I think I had a trash can lid or something, and like he got like beat up for real because like he was, I mean, Streak. Streak is Streak.
He earned it.
And like the wooden mallet was part of it. I know like Riptide just like destroyed him, and so did Fox. Eric. Okay.
Yeah,
we can talk off air about that. I made this disclaimer with Mike because we also went into wrestling details, and I'll make this disclaimer when we talk about people from the past. I tend to remember them as they were then, because we have to. I have to in order to keep sane. Yeah, so, he just got destroyed. Then we eventually went to Dave's backyard where I think we developed the idea of bungee cords for ropes, I think. But we also made our own ring eventually. Like, we got huge pieces of wood, cemented them down in the ground, got tires for the bounce underneath. Got turnbuckles from highspots.com and the ropes and everything. I actually think I still have our original high spot ropes in my parents' attic.
Oh, really?
I think so. At least a couple turnbuckles and turnbuckle pads. Because when we bought the ring, which was after we got kicked out of Dave's backyard, we went. I think that's when we went to Crabtree, to Tony's house.
No, Lico's.
We went to Lico's first. So
unless you may have.
Well, we do because we went back to Tony's.
Okay.
So I think we started off at Tony's, and there we said, we're changing our name from Federation of Teenage Wrestlers because F Falls Township, who kicked us out of here, so we're Falls Township Wrestling in Bristol Township, and we bought D'Angelo fronted the money for us to buy the ring, and then that's the ring that I think was used for years and years, and I think Justin has it.
Yeah, Justin owns it.
Do they do anything with that anymore?
As far as I know, no.
Yeah, and it's this going back to the reason I thought about bringing you into this a year ago or so, maybe a little bit more. I saw the UWF Flyers. You guys did a couple shows last year.
Yeah,
or was it the year before?
I
think it was last year because I said, "Oh man, they're wrestling again." If I could, so in January I weighed 240 and I dropped 40 pounds up as of last week. So I got down back to my FTW weight. So if I can get down to FTW weight and train, I want to talk to C-Robb and see what's going on and see just one more time.
Yeah, it was.
But I think it was August of last year.
No, it'll be 2 years in February from when I first went back.
Okay.
But they had a show, actually 2 years ago. The beginning of this month, they had a show at the beginning of November, and so actually, me and Tom went to that, and we talked to Scott and talked to Nubius, and
who I last saw on TV. He's he's a Kevin Smith guy. He likes Kevin Smith too, and he was on Comic Book Men. I think a year or two ago.
He draws a lot of comic books.
Oh, does he?
Oh, he's a fantastic artist.
I knew he drew. Does he draw just freelance comic book stuff, or does he actually publish his stuff?
That I don't know. Yeah. But I talked to him a little bit, talked to Scott a little bit, and then I talked to Moose a few days later, and Moose is I'd be willing to have you come back and work for me. So, him and I, we got together and we talked about a lot of things as far as the direction that we wanted the UWF to go, and we started working on it. I right away kind of became his right hand man. He leaned on me for a lot of things. I got Redding involved. He had already had Bruce Van Zant Hazard.
Oh, okay.
He already had him involved because he refereed a few of the matches on the November show, and so I helped him out with a lot of things. I designed, him and I were talking, and I said, "Look, if you're gonna want to legitimize this, I said you should really consider getting custom belts rather than getting these replica belts and putting stickers on them every other small time organization does." I said, it'd be really good. And he's like, "Well, I don't really know what to do as far as that." And I said, "Look, I get places that reach out to me all the time online about ordering them." I said, "I'll look into it." So he's like, "All right, well, come up with some designs." So I'm like, "Oh, let's not put the cart before the horse." I talked to one of the guys, and the guy's like, "Shoot me some designs. I'll give you a price." So now I'm like, okay, I guess I should have put the cart before the horse. So I came up with some designs, and I'm not a good artist, but I always like the idea, and this is something that Fox and I had talked about several times, and we had, come up with the idea for the FTW for the Keystone State title.
Yeah.
Where the main plate is actually in the shape of the Keystone, and I'm like, well, we have a PA, title. I said to Moose, "Do you mind if I change the name to the Keystone State?" And he's like, "Do whatever you want to do. I don't care." And I'm like, all right. So I changed it so that the main plate is in the shape of a keystone, and it's got the outline of the state of Pennsylvania, and it says PA on top of it, and they're multi-layered, multicolored, and the two side plates closest to the main plate are they have the Liberty Bell on them, and then the two plates on the outside have the U.S. Steel emblem on it because it's started in Pittsburgh, and so I designed that belt, put it on a blue strap.
Like that light blue, like the old school.
No, it's actually it's a royal blue.
Okay.
And then I did the world title, and I was always a big fan of like you were saying, the belts that aren't your traditional black. Having different color, especially everything we had in FTW was
a black weightlifting belt.
Yeah,
with
black
a piece of
belt.
wood and
until we started using replicas, and then even still, you're still using replicas.
Were you there for our custom belts?
There was a couple when I first started with you guys, and then we just started using the replicas.
My favorite, before you continue with your story, my favorite was the hardcore title that we designed as the Anarchy A, because I think it was, and that may have been long gone by the time you got there, but I think we designed it because Fox as Arson maybe was the hardcore champion, so like we're like, oh well, let's make how Austin has his custom title, let's do that. And it was the most dangerous belt because it's that steel that it's sharp corners.
Yeah,
we were idiots.
And so the world title I put on a red strap, and custom designed it. It's an eagle where the wings actually come up over like the top plate.
Okay,
and in the eagle's talons is the globe. And then, you got your typical banners with the emblems and everything, and it just kind of looks like almost like a starburst behind everything.
Cool.
And then on like the plates, one's the British flag, one's the Japanese flag, one's the Canadian flag, and the other one's the US flag. And then the tag titles, again, another idea that Fox and I had come up with. Mainly Fox, because I wasn't really big into WCW, and Fox always watched both.
Yeah.
And Fox said, I really like the WCW Cruiserweight tag titles, which I think were only in existence for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks.
They weren't around long.
And it was the main plate of the belt is the body and head of an eagle, and the side plate is the wings of an eagle.
Oh, okay.
And so I did that, and that plane's very base, or that belt's very plain and basic. There's not a whole lot to it, but it's different. It's different than what anybody else is going with, and those are on white straps, and so I came up with it. The guy gave gave me a really good price on it, and I went to Moose and I said, this is what it is. This is how much it would cost. What do you think? And he's like, if that's all it's going to cost, do it. And it ended up costing. I think I paid like $40 out of pocket, and he paid it was $800 for the 4 belts.
That's an excellent price. I always
and
assumed
they were custom.
Yeah, I always assumed they would be like $4 to $5, if not up to $800 a piece.
Yeah, and so I paid the $45 Western Union fee, and he paid the $800, and the whole time I'm thinking I'm gonna end up paying Moose $800 because this guy's gonna screw me over. Like I never dealt with Western Union, and I was very nervous about it, and then. He promised that we would have them. Our one show was February 22nd. Our next show was April 26th. And he promised we'd have them before the 26th. They came the 28th, which I was furious about, And the thing was at the time, Nubius, he was like, I don't really know if I want to wrestle. You know, my back's been killing me. I'm having a hard time, you know, keeping it, because he was 50 at the time.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah.
I thought
he's older
40
than you
now.
think he is. And so Moose is like, well, you know, we're gonna take that Keystone title, the PA title. He kept calling it the PA title. We're gonna take that PA title off him. We're gonna put it on you. We'll say that you won it, you know, at a show in New York. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So we did the next show was in actually the first show. We'll go back to kind of skipping ahead. So we did the belts. You got the belts all ordered, and I sold for that show. I had, because it was the first time I was wrestling in 5 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I wrestled
when was that show?
PTCW was 2009.
Okay,
it was
2009.
2009.
Like 4
so,
or 5 years since the last time I wrestled. And so I had a lot of people, especially with my contacts at Little League, a lot of people wanted to come. I sold like 50-some tickets to the show. And I pushed it a lot on social media. And, you know, Moose and I actually went out and we were flyering places. You know, we did what the two top guys in the company should never have to do, but we did it because nobody else would do it. And we had they took in over 800 tickets.
Oh,
at the Y, and
I was gonna say, where was this?
And I mean, the place was packed. It was rowdy. It was a good time. It was one of my favorite times wrestling. Especially, I got to wrestle. My first match was against what he named is Eddie Van Hazard, was what he changed his name to, Bruce.
Oh, okay.
Rather than just Hazard, it was Eddie Van Hazard. And he, you know, him and I, we talked about the match, and you know me, I'm like, I approach matches like how The Undertaker approaches matches. Mm-hmm. I like to know what I'm doing from bell to bell, because I am more a memory person. On the fly, I can do it. It's just, you're not going to get the quality on the fly that.
Well, and the benefit that we always had with the FTW, I mean, I guess when we were in the backyard doing it weekly, it was more on the fly with, like, you know, meeting, like just chatting throughout the week about what we're going to do. But once we went pro and we're just doing monthly shows or every other month or whatever, that's when you, like, I don't think one person didn't script it out that way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you have all the time. Most of us were only doing it for FTW. I mean, there was very few of us who were actually going out and traveling. I know eventually, like, Fox and Justin did. They tagged along with Montoya and Reckless. But, I mean, most of us that were in the FTW, save for the guys we brought in, we were all, you know, let's plan this out and make it a great match.
Yeah.
Which is how I would still do it today.
So him and I planned it out. I mean, to the point where even Sean Moore, who was refereeing,
I saw pictures
he knew
of
the
him.
match. Yeah. So he knew what was going on. So it was very easy for him. Actually, the sad thing is that the other referee that was supposed to do the event never showed up. So Sean refereed every single match.
That sucks.
And his hand was killing him.
I'm sure.
You know, and then in the ring, that ring was so hard, there wasn't a lot of padding. He came back to do the next match. He went out, the next show, he went out, he bought this, you know, like brace for his hand so it wouldn't hurt him as much. And it was like wrestling on a cloud, to the point where I gave Redding a German suplex and I slammed him down. And you would have never known. Like, it was so quiet.
Yeah, that's the event I remember seeing flyers for, because there was, I think this was at one of the Frankie things at JoJo's. Where, like, you guys had a basket with tickets and stuff in it.
Yep.
And that's when I first saw that the UWF was back.
I put that together.
It was a nice batch. I put money in towards it and failed, but yeah, that's when that was 2 years ago already.
Yeah, it's crazy. We yeah, I was actually I'll get to that later about the Frankie's thing. We so as we're getting ready for that show, Moose says to me, we're getting close to the end, and he says, I need to get somebody to wrestle the midget. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, who are you going to have wrestle the midget? And he's like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm like, why don't you let me wrestle the midget? Now I gotta put you with that Bruce kid, because I've never seen Bruce wrestle. I know you've wrestled with him before. I feel more comfortable with you doing that. I'm like, well, dude, don't worry about it. I'll do double duty. And he's like, no, I'm not going to have you do double duty. I got to make the midget win, or I got to let the midget win, and it's your first night back. I don't want you losing. And I'm like, Moose, it'll be fine. And he no. So I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to do everything I can to help him as far as, getting the midget an opponent. And so the day of the show, I go over, I hand him, the ticket money, and actually Redding his wife had gotten hurt because it had snowed a couple days before, and she fell, broke her hip.
Oh.
Yeah, so Mike's like, I can't do the show. So he comes back, he gives me all his tickets. I ended up, because I had sold all of my tickets, and I had gone back to Moose and gotten more tickets and sold all those. Like I said, I sold over 50 tickets, and I ended up selling 6 of Redding's tickets. And so when I give him all the money, he's like, you sold all these tickets? And I'm like, yeah. And like, I don't know, I guess it's because he's so used to everybody that he had been dealing with for the last few years wrestling. They just take advantage of him. They come in, all they're looking for is a payday. They don't want to do anything to help. Like, it was emotional for him to see how far I went to help the product. And he's like, whoever you want to wrestle. He said, if you want to wrestle Guido tonight for the UWF title, you can wrestle. And I'm like, just let me do double duty. Let me work the midget. And he's like, why do you want to work the midget? And I'm like, because it's an honor to work a midget. And let me tell you, Short Sleeve Samson is one of the coolest guys I ever met. But Shovelhead Chuck, who is the guy that I wrestled, Shovelhead Chuck was awesome. He was such a good guy, even for the fact that he didn't kick my ass just for offending him. Because he comes in to the locker room later that day, and he's like, okay, so who am I working? And I'm like, actually, you're working me. And Bruce and I, we were just going over like the final parts of our match, what we were going to do. And so I'm like, just, give me a sec, and then I'll get to you because I'm doing double duty. And he's like, oh, okay. So Bruce and I finish up, and I go over to him, and I'm like, look, man, any of the classic midget spots you want to do, like, you want to chase me around the ring, bite my ass, whatever, I'm cool with it. And he's like, no, I don't do that stuff. And I'm like, okay. And like, you could tell he was really offended by it. I'm like, shit, man, I just pissed him off.
He's gonna stiff you now.
And it was a blast. So first we go out, me, Montoya, and I had Sir Style. He was like our manager, our mouthpiece. We go out, and we're shit talking the crowd. We got the motorcycle gimmick because it was something that I always wanted to do. I always felt that if you're going to do a gimmick, you have to live your gimmick. Like me, I ride a motorcycle. I ride in packs. Unless I'm going back and forth to work, I'm never alone on my bike. I always got other people with me, and so I just thought, this is a good thing. I saw Impact with Aces and Eights, and I saw how terrible they took that gimmick. It started off great for anybody who is a fan of it, a fan of Impact or watched Impact at the time. The whole Aces and Eights thing started off great. It got very predictable, and they just buried it into the ground when they could have done so much for the gimmick. And I thought that I want to do what's right with the gimmick. Like I wanted, for those that aren't really familiar with motorcycle clubs, most motorcycle clubs aren't about, they're not outlaws. They're not out there, selling guns and drugs, and it's nothing like Sons of Anarchy. Do you have those clubs out there? Absolutely. But in the history of motorcycle clubs, I mean, like you see what happened a couple weeks ago in France, and ISIS, they were threatening something at another location near France, and who was there to protect it? A motorcycle club. And that's what motorcycle clubs do. They're the ones that organize these Toys for Tots rides, and they're the ones who, when a soldier's flown home, when their body's flown home to be with their family from overseas, they're the ones that lead the way. When the casket's dropped off at the airport and it's put into the car and sent to the funeral home, they're the ones that lead the car to the funeral home. And so I wanted to start it off evil, like it should be, and then take it to, the face level, because you have to be, as from not just, being a fan, but from wrestling, in your career, you have to be the most hated to be the most loved. Yeah. And vice versa. You have to be the most loved to be the most hated. That's why John Cena drives me nuts. And it's always been that way. I hate John Cena. And oh no, he did. Remember that night? But that's where I wanted to take it. So, we're out there, we're running down the crowd, and I knew a lot of my friends from Little League were there. And so I wanted to use that in it, because I had just a few months prior, I had just stepped down from being on the board of the Little League. And so one of the comments I had said, because I knew I had over 50 some people that watching me that were there to see me more than anything. And so of course I come out and I'm getting cheered. And so I said,
what did he say? What did C-Robb say to that crowd? The crowd that was cheering for him, the crowd that was there at the UWF Hall to see C-Robb wrestling. What did he say? Find out next week, folks. We are going to continue our conversation with C-Robb next week. And we're going to continue on with the conversation about him coming back to the UWF and go from there. We have a great conversation to kind of wrap up. You know what? I messed up. I didn't give you a show last week, so I'm going to give you part 2 this week. That's right. Today is Monday, February 4th. You're listening to this. You're getting all riled up for, wrestling. Wrestlemania was just this past weekend. You're listening to a true indie wrestler, a true indie star, and you want to know what happens next in his journey. And I'm not going to make you wait a whole week. No. I'm going to make you wait a business week. That's right. This Friday, I don't have the date in front of me, but it's the Friday after WrestleMania 2016. You'll get part 2 of my conversation with C-Robb. I promise you that. You can find him on, I don't know, I think he has a Twitter. I don't know what it is, though. He didn't really want to plug much of himself, really. He wants you to check out that Carole Yeager-Ellis Coach Pitch Softball Tournament this summer, July 9th to the 14th, 2016. So check that out. We'll get more information about that as we get closer. Find me on Twitter at HHWST. Find this show on Twitter at That Entertains. Make sure you go to iTunes, subscribe to this show. Do me a huge favor while you're on iTunes, subscribing to this show to not miss every awesome interview we do on this awesome show. Please leave an awesome review for us, an awesome 5-star review. It really would help us out. More eyes on the show would just be so cool. It's in an episode coming up, you're going to hear me talk to Joe Kaliva about, I don't look at numbers, and I really don't look at numbers. But, it would be cool. Like, I'm hitting some cool milestones in my podcasting career 10 years in, and I'm getting like people that I didn't think would say yes. I get people come to me and say, hey, can I be on your show? So like, it'd be really cool just to see some people leave some awesome reviews on iTunes, some awesome 5-star reviews. It helps this show. And I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to be able to do like the next big thing, but it's just going to be cool for me, and it'll be cool for the guests that come on this show to say, hey, this is legitimate, man. Like, Everything is Awesome is a legitimate podcast to go and have a good conversation. That's what I want this show to be about. So stay tuned next week when we sit down and finish our conversation with the one, the only, the icon, if you will, C-Robb. Everything is Awesome is produced by Crude Humor Studios. For more information about the podcast, please visit us online at awesomepodcast.com. Or if you're interested in advertising on the show, please email us at advertising@crudehumorstudios.com. Stream and download all episodes on iTunes. While you're there, please consider leaving a 5-star review. If you're a fan of the show, please let us know by following us on Twitter and Instagram @ThatEntertains.